Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new, I'm Katie. I am a registered dietitian and I'm here for another Tuesday talk, and I thought that instead of posting what I originally planned, that I would sit down and do a video where I talk with you about my pieces of advice as we're all navigating the coronavirus and how it's impacting our day-to-day routines, our physical activity, our diets, and even food accessibility. There is a lot going on right now and it's been hard to talk about because I don't want to just add to the noise, but I know this is valuable information to share for anyone who just feels a little overwhelmed. But before I get started, I wanted to preface this video by saying there's no supplement regimen, no essential oil or special diet that's going to keep you from getting COVID if you were to come into contact with it. It's obviously a great idea to do what we can to support our immune system, and if a daily multivitamin is a part of that, then great, keep it up, but don't rely on these supplements as a means of prevention. We know that true prevention is isolation, plain and simple. If you aren't around others and aren't around public spaces, that's the best way to not only ensure you don't get sick, but that you're not unknowingly spreading it around to others. Also, this is a time that is financially hard for a lot of people, especially those losing jobs. And I would hate for anyone in general to feel like they need to spend exorbitant amounts of money on supplements or whatever else is floating around and being sold on social media as a cure or whatever, when you can put that money towards real food and supplies. Another big fear of mine is that people will think because they're taking zinc or vitamin C, elderberry, that they are in some way immune to getting infected, and that's just not the case. We have no evidence or research at this point looking at that yet. So again, to re-emphasize, stay educated with the recommendations put out not only by the CDC, but follow the limits placed in your state or your country. It's important that we're finding a balance between stocking up enough food to sustain us in the case of a quarantine and stores are closed, and hoarding. Quarantines are lasting an average of 14 days and we likely have quite a bit of food on hand as it is, so be sure to be mindful of taking only what you need and leaving what you don't for others. So think about how many people are in your household and how quickly you tend to go through food. This can be really tough, but it's really important that we're taking this time to ask ourselves if we tend to waste food at the end of the week because we made too much and it goes bad, or maybe you didn't make anything with it and it went bad. Either way, we need to start paying attention to our eating habits and what typically happens throughout the week. So looking at both scenarios, one where you made too much food and it went bad, and the other being that you got food and you didn't do anything with it and it went bad. In both scenarios, we have a chance to not only save money, but to also start adding food to your stockpile. Leftover meals can more often than not be frozen in shallow Tupperwares. Pop them in the freezer and then reheat the meal whenever you want to have it. Doesn't get more convenient than that. On the other hand, if you tend to have food go bad because you don't use it, then it's time to be mindful and watch the lives of your produce when they are in the fridge. Start thinking about how you plan to cook them, or if it's been a few days and you're not sure, then please freeze your produce. Freezing vegetables before they go bad is a great way to help you stock up and to keep you from buying already frozen veggies at the store. When it comes to freezing different vegetables, I'm going to talk about 5 just to walk you through the freezing process. So the first vegetable is broccoli. You did see me do a quick little demo about this on my IG story the other day, but don't freeze it raw. You're not going to like the taste or the texture of it. All you're going to do is a quick blanch and then freeze it. And I know blanching sounds intimidating, like what is that word? But all you have to do is take 2 pots, one with boiling water, one with ice water. You're going to put the broccoli in the boiling water for a minute, transfer it to the ice bath. This stops the cooking process. You'll also notice that broccoli will have a very pretty bright green color at this point. And once you're done in the ice bath for like a minute, not even that long, until it's at least cooled off, take it out, put it on a towel, paper towel, whatever, and you're going to try soaking up any excess water and you're all set. Put it in a freezer-friendly bag and you're good to go. The reason why blanching vegetables is so common before freezing them is because it not only preserves the color and the crunch of vegetables, but it also helps to kill bacteria, which is really important. And I would use frozen broccoli by either steaming it or sauteing it in a skillet with some seasonings. My second vegetable is spinach. This can be frozen as is. You can blanch it if you want, but just try to remove any excess moisture and remove the air from the bag before you freeze it. It will typically last in the freezer for a couple months if you don't blanch it, so not forever. And since the texture of spinach does change after you've frozen it, I would typically cook it in something else. Maybe if I'm making a lentil sloppy joes, then I'll put that in. If I'm cooking some tofu, then bam, I'll add that to the skillet. Want to make a smoothie, then just blend it up like that. But I'm not about to go make a frozen spinach salad. That probably won't taste very good. Alright, the third vegetable is kale, another leafy green that I've been seeing sticking around on the shelves more frequently, and it's similar to spinach, except it is best to blanch before freezing because it is a thicker leafy green. So just remove the leaves from the stems like you usually would when you prepare kale, and blanch the stems and the leaves separately. When we're thinking about how we want to use our greens, I simply want you to think about the meal you're going to be putting together and what components are already going into it. So let's say we're all hunkered down and we just cooked some rice, opened a can of beans, and mixed it together with some cumin, chili powder, and we have a tortilla we're gonna wrap it in, then congrats, you have a very brown meal. Which isn't bad, but it could be a hint to try getting something green in there, just to make sure that you are eating vegetables still. My fourth vegetable are carrots, and they are a popular root vegetable that I've seen in stock consistently at Whole Foods. All you have to do is cut down large carrots into smaller pieces. You're going to blanch it for a little bit longer than you would broccoli, like up to 3 minutes in the boiling water. Then you're going to ice bath them and then freeze them on a baking tray. So you're gonna lay them all flat so that it's easier for them to not stick together. And once they've all frozen, then you can transfer them to a bag and you're all set. And just like broccoli, you can steam frozen carrots or saute them with seasonings. You really can't go wrong with just salt and pepper. I kid you not, I had a phase in college where I would eat just a bag of crinkle cut carrots with salt and pepper, like as a snack. And number 5, last but not least, is celery. So you're just going to wash them, cut them into 1-inch pieces, blanch them in boiling water for like 2 minutes, hit them with the ice bath, and then freeze them on a baking tray just like we do for carrots, just to prevent them from sticking together. And once they're frozen, put them in a baggie and you're all set. Celery is a great vegetable to have since it's a good base for soups along with our carrots and broccoli. If we're stocking up on canned food, which I'll get to in a minute, then soups and celery go together like peas in a pod. And speaking of peas, if you want to know how to freeze other vegetables I may not have mentioned, be sure to check out the description below for a link I found really helpful for giving very clear, simple instructions on freezing different kinds of produce. The last point I want to make about frozen foods is that if your area is wiped clean of already frozen produce, then I want to encourage you to look at fresh options that you are able to freeze. From my own experience in Oahu, our Costco still has a good amount of bulk sizes of vegetables like broccoli, bell peppers, and onions. If you feel that the bulk sizes are too large and you don't think you're going to get through them fresh, then please don't worry, freeze most of it right away and keep a portion of fresh out for when you want it. Okay, so now that we've covered food waste and frozen foods, I want to get into canned foods, and they are the royalty of shelf stability. You have a variety of canned beans, tomatoes, heaps of other vegetables. You can get canned tuna fish. I think a majority of people gravitate towards canned beans because of the protein, which is a really great idea. And if you're someone who does follow a vegan diet and you're trying to navigate this situation, then canned beans are a winner for you. Unfortunately here, canned goods have been sparse, and over the last few weeks the supply has been dwindling down. I did just keep my eye on Costco for when they would eventually restock, and I, thank goodness, got enough black beans for the 3 of us here if we needed to stay home for a couple weeks. Another perk of getting canned beans and vegetables is that we're getting the fiber from those items. I know it's common, and we did it too, where we're just getting anything that's left, and sometimes you just do what you have to do, but just have in the back of your mind that you should be trying to get an adequate amount of fiber to keep your gut and bowels moving along, preventing constipation, and staying overall healthy and happy. The next area I want to touch on is shelf-stable milk. Doesn't really matter if you choose a vegan one or not, depending on your preference. The concern is for animal products lasting long enough in the fridge. Like chicken, for instance, has a good 2 days before you should do something with it. So just make sure that you're cooking and freezing to prevent waste and to have it on hand if that's what you want. An issue I anticipate is people buying up meat and being overwhelmed and having it go bad. So just be aware of where you are with what you have bought so that you can cook and freeze accordingly. For my fellow vegans, I know at least for me, we get a lot of protein from our soy milk, at least a good amount. We have it on the daily. So if you eat a strict plant-based vegan diet, I highly recommend choosing soy milk as your alternative since it is the highest in protein for generally a lower cost compared to others. Like almond milk is lower in protein, similar cost. Oat milk is lower in protein. The Ripple brand is comparable, but it is much more expensive. I have found a shelf-stable soy milk, so we'll tap into that if it comes to it, but it's there as a way to make sure that we're still getting enough protein during this time since stores aren't consistent with what they have in stock. Like, we haven't been able to get tofu for a few weeks now, so we've been using what we have very slowly and carefully. Anyway, on the topic of protein, sure, canned beans, shelf-stable milks, try saying that 5 times fast. Tofu and tempeh, if you can get a hold of them, are great options, but I wanted to share what we're doing here since it's been harder for us to get what we usually do for our daily diet. We found at Costco and even Whole Foods in the midst of its emptiness that both stores have had vegan-friendly frozen burger patties. Think about black bean burgers or even breakfast sausages. They are higher in protein, and what we've been doing is that every time we make a block of tofu, we do chop up and mix in probably 2 burger patties so that we go through our tofu slower, but we're still getting protein as part of our meal. I have consistently seen these frozen items available, so I feel fairly good that if I were to go to Costco now that I could restock on it, but I can't say the same for tofu. It's been gone for weeks now. So any other vegans out there, don't overlook the frozen pre-made burgers or sausage patties. The next thing I want to talk about is for dry goods, either in bulk or not, whatever you can find. And what I'm talking about are dried beans. If you can't get canned, then dried ones are even more cost effective, to be honest. They're really easy to cook up. I've never done it, but it's definitely an option. In the dry food section, you'll also find different grains like barley, quinoa, rice, farro, couscous. All are great shelf-stable ways to switch up your grains. Again, just look for what you can in your area. I also think that nuts and seeds tend to be overlooked in some places. Costco still has a good supply of nuts and seeds, but don't forget that hemp seeds, for example, boast a whopping 10 grams of protein per 3 tablespoons, which is insane. Next, I'm sure you guys have thought about your nut butters, peanut butter, almond butter. They are a great source of protein, fat, and calories. They can really add a satisfying factor to whatever you're snacking on. Maybe you stocked up on crackers, and instead of just going through the whole box of crackers and still being hungry at the end, try eating them with peanut butter to help fill you up and to help satiate your appetite a bit better. Another strategy we can implement for fruits and vegetables is choosing ones that can live outside of the fridge for a while. So these are like our citrus fruits, like oranges, our apples, potatoes, and onions are really good too. I wanted to talk about a strategy that I've implemented somewhat in my mind, and this is setting par inventory. And this is something done in food service, but par inventory is a minimum amount of inventory to have at a particular time. So we have a good amount of food that we are going to go through and we're eating now, but I know that when I get to a minimum level of different items, then I'll go out and replenish it, because I don't know if or when they'll say you can't go grocery shopping anymore. So I want you to really think thoroughly about how much you typically eat for you and your family, and ask yourself, like, just for an example, how much oatmeal would we really go through? Well, we have at least 2 cups of oats a day, so I think if I had 2 large bags of oatmeal, that would be good for a solid month. So I would say that 2 bags is my par inventory. And when we get down to that, that's telling me I need to replenish it. That helps prevent hoarding and me going out and buying like a ton of oatmeal because I'm scared. So please really try thinking about how often and how much food you go through. It's really challenging to think about how much food you're going to need if you weren't able to leave your house at all, and it easily instills a level of panic and anxiety. I totally understand that. But it will be a time where we really have to pay attention to our habits. If we're staying home more often, are we going to be more prone to eating when we're bored or not necessarily hungry? Try to create regular meals and snacks to the best of your ability so that if you tend to graze, you can then better control how much food you're going to go through. Lastly, I want to say that a lot of the topics I talked about all have one main thing in common, and I don't want to ignore it, and that's the simple fact of food accessibility. I know that we all have different circumstances, we all have different resources, and a lot of what I talk about is if you're fortunate enough to have great accessibility. If it is more challenging for you, I will say to, of course, do your best, but don't feel bad if you're making choices you typically wouldn't because the shelves are literally empty. So if you need to eat more cereal than you would normally, or prepackaged snacks, or even treats, like, it's perfectly fine. It can be hard mentally. Trust me, I can feel for you. Eating food you normally wouldn't while also being restricted in what's available, and you also can't do the workouts you typically would, it can feel like a huge step backwards for anyone who has been trying to make lifestyle changes at the moment. But it really does come down to survival and being able to eat enough. And I really worry about our older population during this time to make sure that they have access to foods left in the store. Again, guys, please don't hoard items. Making sure that they're able to make or prepare food on their own at home, or have a means of getting meals if they can't. The older population isn't only more at risk for the coronavirus, but they are also at risk for malnutrition during this time of shortages and other social or economic situations that they may be in. So please, please be aware of your behaviors and the people in your life, in your community that may need your assistance. If you're struggling financially, then please reach out to local food pantries and visit feedingamerica.org to find a food bank in your area so that you can find more information on what's available to you. Or if you want to help support financially, then you can also donate at feedingamerica.org. There is a COVID response fund. Matt and I have donated to it, and it doesn't need to be an extravagant gesture. And if this whole experience has taught us anything, it's that the effort from everyone, both big and small, is what's going to get us through this. I will be putting a list at the end of the video of things that we have on hand if you're interested in that. I hope this video was helpful for you. If you have any concerns that you want to chat about further, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to leave them in the comments or shoot me a DM so we can chat. I hope everyone stays safe, calm, cautious, and prepared, and I'll see you guys soon.